Welcome to Leading Beyond Limits, the podcast where we explore the extraordinary journeys and insights of remarkable leaders who have pushed the boundaries of what's possible. Your host, Angel Radcliffe, who is a digital transformation leader, author, speaker, and financial educator, will lead each episode and dive deep into the stories, strategies, and philosophies that have empowered these exceptional individuals to lead, inspire, and achieve beyond the ordinary. We're about to embark on a journey of discovery and inspiration, and together, we'll learn what it takes to lead beyond limits. So grab your cape, or at least your favorite coffee mug, because we're about to unravel the extraordinary tales of trailblazers who've turned impossible into I'm possible. Let's get started.
Welcome to Season 2 of the podcast, where each week we will explore a real-world leadership scenario designed to slow you down and help you think more intentionally about how you lead. This week's scenario is simple. It's not easy, but it is simple. The data is incomplete, but the decision is due today. You will hear two voices in this episode. They represent different leadership perspectives, intended to help you reflect rather than rush to an answer. Before we get started, I do want to hop into a disclaimer. On a brief note, some of these episodes will be narrated scenarios and conversations. These are designed to create space for reflection. This podcast is not about providing answers or step-by-step instruction. It's a space to slow down, examine real-world leadership moments, and reflect on how we choose to lead when certainty is unavailable. With that, let's begin with our week 1 scenario.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're really digging into those insights from Leading Beyond Limits, the excerpts on high-stakes decisions. And this isn't so much about strategy, is it? It feels like it's more about the psychology of it all, the psychology of conviction when things get really intense.
It is. It's a very different focus.
So our mission today is to explore this really uncomfortable truth that leaders face, which is that you have to move. You have to make a decisive move, often long before you have any real certainty.
Yes, that's the paradox. Acting when the facts are, fundamentally scarce.
Right.
And these materials, they give us a really concise, almost executive-level reflection on what defines leadership today. It's not about how perfectly you manage a stable system. It's all about how you decide when you're basically operating in a fog.
A fog of complexity, yeah.
Exactly. They force you to confront. The decision-making at the top it's less about finding the one right answer and more about managing necessary risk.
And they frame that whole discussion with this single powerful scenario. It's right at the top of the source stack. It's almost like a command.
It is.
The data is incomplete. The decision is due today. That one sentence, that's not the exception, is it? The sources say that's the standard operating environment.
That is the job, that collision of time and missing information.
Okay, let's unpack that. The core conflict here. There's this gravitational pull we all have towards seeking total certainty. We want that 100% data set, that bulletproof plan, because we're so conditioned to think that success means being right.
And that's a deeply ingrained desire, especially in cultures that, really reward analytical thinking. But the sources here, they draw a line between being prudent and being paralyzed.
Right.
And what's really fascinating is the psychological reason they give for that endless search for just one more piece of data. They call it a sophisticated way of hiding from the risk of being wrong.
Wow. Okay, that is a really stunning claim, because if that's true, it changes everything. We're not talking about managing information anymore. We're talking about managing our own comfort, our own accountability.
Exactly.
But I have to challenge that a little. Where do the sources draw that line between, sophisticated hiding and just responsible due diligence? I mean, if you're managing shareholder money or public safety, shouldn't you aim for 100%?
It's a crucial distinction, and they do address it. Due diligence it's a process with a clear end.
Yeah.
The hiding behavior, on the other hand, is when you get these open-ended requests for more reports, more validation.
When enough is already there.
Precisely. Demanding analysis that would take months when a reasonable sufficiency of data already exists. It's just a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
If we wait until every single variable is known, well, the decision either makes itself or the opportunity is just gone.
So the delay isn't about the quality of the data you have. It's about putting off the moment you become personally responsible for the outcome.
Yes. At that point, you're not leading. You're just executing the output of a study. The sources are very clear on this. The delay is less about information and much more about avoiding that emotional discomfort of making a choice that could fail.
It's a failure of nerve, just masked as analysis.
That's the perfect way to put it.
So that reframes the whole task. The search for 100% certainty is really just self-protection. And it separates the great analyst who solves clean problems from the true leader who has to act in that huge, uncomfortable gray area.
Which is where they say all true leadership decisions live. And that brings us right to what the sources call the leadership micro scenario.
Tell me more about that. What are its parameters?
It's a moment defined by 3 conditions, non-negotiable conditions. First, there's no easy answer. All your options are high risk.
Okay.
Second, there's no textbook solution. So past experience, old models, they won't give you the full answer. It's a new problem.
Right. And the third?
The third is critical. No room for hesitation. You have to move now. The cost of waiting is higher than the risk of acting.
So, a sudden competitor move, a supply chain collapse.
A PR crisis.
Yeah.
Exactly. Things that demand immediate, non-reversible action.
That makes the whole idea of leadership much more tangible. And if we accept that 100% certainty is a myth and waiting is too costly, we need a threshold for action.
We do.
And this is where the sources get very specific. They give us a number. They give us the 70% conviction.
And this threshold is really the core operational idea here. It's their answer to the question, when do you move? It acknowledges that in the real world, the data you can get in time will only ever take you to about 70% of the picture.
And that last 30% is it's the unknown.
It's the unknowable, at
Wow.
least in the time frame you have. It's the competitor's response you can't predict, the economic shift, the subtle internal politics that only show up after you act.
So leadership is really about having the internal readiness, the conviction to commit when you only have 70% of the picture.
Yeah.
It's about accepting that partial information is the norm. It's not a failure.
Precisely. We need to stop calling 70% insufficient data and start seeing it as data sufficiency. Because if you wait for that last 30%, you're letting the market or your competition set the timeline. You're not driving anymore. You're just reacting.
Okay, but I have to push back again here, because if 30% of the picture is missing, and that 30% could hide something catastrophic, a legal issue, a fatal product flaw, how do we tell the difference between courageous conviction and just pure recklessness? I think that's what you, the listener, would be asking right now.
It's the key question. And the difference is in the quality of the judgment, not the quantity of the data. Moving at 70% conviction is a responsible act. It's based on a deep analysis of the knowns and a deliberate strategy for managing the known unknowns in that missing 30%.
Oh, I see.
Recklessness, on the other hand, is moving at 30 or 40%, where you haven't even done the basic work to gather what is available.
So it's not a guess. It's a responsible move based on the data you could gather in the time you have while fully acknowledging the risks you can't see yet.
Exactly. And that move relies heavily on your judgment, on your pattern recognition from all your past experiences, good and bad. You have to accept that the missing 30% will only be revealed after you act. The leader's job is to set the course, not guarantee the destination.
And the sources really drive this home with a reflective question, don't they? They ask you to think back. When was the last time you took a leap without all the facts? And did it pay off, or did it teach you something the data never could? That's a powerful self-assessment.
It is, because the learning that happens in that gap between the 70% you know and the 30% you don't, that is the only thing that truly builds judgment. If you never operate without that safety net, you never get better at assessing risk under pressure.
Which brings us perfectly to the final section, the practical application. The sources mention these reflective exercises, things like 52 weeks of high-stakes decisions. And they say the goal is to refine the decision-maker's edge. What is that edge?
The edge is the ability to stay clear and keep moving forward when everything is ambiguous. The materials talk about this critical gap that all leaders have to close, the gap between knowing and doing.
Knowing and doing.
Right. It's one thing to know you should act. It's another thing entirely to actually do it when the cost of being wrong is so high.
And this is where we see that big pivot. The focus shifts away from just being data-informed, that's the knowing part, to relying on your judgment and what the sources call presence, the doing. So how does a leader actually bridge that gap?
By internalizing and accepting the risk. This is where self-trust becomes, an operational necessity. A leader with deep self-trust looks at that missing 30% and accepts the danger in it. But they choose to move anyway. They rely on their experience to anticipate and mitigate what might come. They stop obsessing over the inputs and start focusing on being agile after the decision is made.
I see that all the time in very analytical organizations. Brilliant people, they can diagnose a problem perfectly, but they freeze when the responsibility to pick one imperfect path lands on them. They know what, but they fail at the doing.
That's the perfect example of the knowing-doing gap. Without that mental acceptance of risk, the default is always to wait, ask for one more report, consult one more expert, and that, as we said, is just a retreat from the actual work of leading.
So the sources wrap this all up by redefining leadership itself. They argue it's not about your title or your place on the org chart, it's a method. Leadership isn't a title you're given, it's the way you decide.
That sentence, that's the thesis of this whole deep dive. If your method of deciding is based on seeking consensus or waiting for impossible certainty, then you aren't leading, no matter what your title is. Leadership is measured by the quality of your judgment in incomplete situations, especially under pressure. So to pull this all together, the highest stakes decisions you face are, they're defined by incomplete data and pressure. The mastery is moving past that deep psychological need for 100% certainty and embracing thoughtful, decisive action at that 70% conviction mark, that 70% threshold. That's where competence ends and real conviction has to begin.
And I think the biggest takeaway here for you as you analyze this is to look at the psychology of it. That choice to wait for more data often hides a personal discomfort with risk, with accountability. True leadership means accepting that ambiguity is part of the job description. It's not some problem to be solved away.
And if we go back to that framework from the sources, they leave us with a really powerful metric for self-assessment. If waiting for 100% data is a form of hiding from risk, here's the final thought for you to consider. What specific risk are you currently avoiding by asking for just one more report? And what is the real cost of that delay? That's the question that refines the edge.
Thank you for tuning into another inspiring episode of Leading Beyond Limits. If you enjoyed today's conversation and want to hear more from our incredible guests, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us. And if you have a remarkable leader in mind who you'd like to hear on our show or any questions and comments, feel free to reach out to us. You can find our contact information in the show notes. Remember, leadership knows no bounds, and with the right insights and determination, you too can lead beyond limits. Until next time, keep reaching for the stars and leading with purpose.